Control. So clerk, if you would call the meeting to order.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Calling the roll for the Monday, July 1st Board of Control meeting. It is now 11:01 a.m. We have Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller. Here. Trevor Macular serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenora Lockett. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, the next item requiring attention is a review of the minutes of the meeting of June 24th. I believe everybody has had an opportunity to look those over. Are there any comments, changes, or other corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Is there any public comment, Andrea?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we can go right into contracts and awards. Are there any tabled items?
No tabled items.
Okay, so we will then go into new items for review.
Yes. The first item is BC 2019-490, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Quick Employment LLC for sourcing and staffing of temporary employees, and it's for the period August 8th, 2017 through December 31st, 2019, for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $19,152.
Mike Chambers of Public Works asking for approval of this item. Due to retirements, a couple people that took other positions, long-term FMLA, we've had some turnover of staff in the fiscal department of Public Works. So I know there were some questions that were asked, but I'm hoping by the end of the year, by actually next week, we should have all but 2 filled. And then by the end of the year, we should have the remaining 2 positions filled.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions related to this item? Councilman Miller?
Do we have a problem in the hiring process that's causing us to have to hire temporary people when we have vacant positions?
If we go back to the beginning of this contract, it was intended to help with the rollout of the ERP. At that time, we were scheduled to have a lot of modules going on, and our staff was going to training. So that was the initial phase of it. But what ended up happening was when we had 4 people retire, another person left, it just created a void. If you compound that with the same time, we were looking at the future of how our department should be laid out for the new ERP, make sure we had separation of duties in these positions. That did add some time. But I will be honest with you, generally it is slower than we'd like, but you have to go through the PRC, you have to redefine every position. Even if I have an accountant job that, became vacated, I still have to go through and say what's different about this position versus the last accountant job that I did. And 9 out of 10 times there's not much of a change, but you still have to go through that questions and that process. So it does take time.
How much of the need for this contract is due to filling vacancies, and how much is due to other factors such as the ERP installation?
The initial contract was intended just for the ERP. Since then, it's been the vacancies. And like I said, 5 of the 6 were in my area, and one of the areas we actually filled a position in the office manager for the trades, but that person didn't meet probation, which then created another vacancy. So that's really one of the reason we're keeping this going is for the trades. And then my other position, we can try and, fill the gaps in the interim. But they haven't even, that's being reposted right now.
Well, we don't want to have Public Works to have any excuse for not getting the things done that we need in our districts. Mm-hmm. So I'm happy to support this.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Baker?
For those, and it looks like the majority are retired, is there enough time at the time that they announce their retirement to the time that we need to replace that person?
In all honesty, 2 of the people, left pretty quickly. The other ones, as soon as they gave me a letter, which was the right way of doing things, I immediately started that process a few weeks to a month in advance, which really helped out. There's a couple that, didn't do that courtesy.
So when someone is on the retirement track and you know that they're ending their career with us, you only get a couple of weeks to a month?
If they put it in writing, it's once they put it in writing and we get that official, I mean, they can always pull it back, but then that gives me the permission to start going forward. Otherwise, I don't have a vacancy.
Okay, thank,
Any other questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, item BC 2019-491, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Mythix, Inc. for Oracle database software support and maintenance services. And it's for the period June 1st, 2016 through May 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to May 31st, 2020, to expand the scope of services to add Oracle Database Standard Edition 1 license effective June 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed to $327,236.85.
Morning, Minnesota Department of IT. First of all, I don't know what the expansion on the scope of services is. Exact same products, same licenses that we go. This is the Oracle side for the applications that are supported primarily for SAP, OBM, personal property and appraisal. And this is obviously needed until the ERP 4. And yes, we do have the language in for now.
Question, Councilwoman Baker.
so would we have needed this renewal if the ERP was on schedule? Is it only, are we extending it because we extended the
We're
ERP?
extending it, to my knowledge, Dan, we're extending it because it's not fully implemented and running. If the ERP was fully implemented at this time, I got it. Coincide for X amount of time before you turn one off. I mean,
Right.
there's gonna be transition period even when it's up and through, all testing and actually live.
Well, that
I don't
trans,
wanna speak for that project, I
yeah.
don't sit on any of those meetings.
that transition period though would happen anyway. I don't know if that would, I guess this is for how long is this?
This will take it out to, 2020,
January 2020?
5/31.
5/31. So just to be clear, so if this ERP ended at the end of this year, and even though we might have tests and dual systems and whatever it takes to make sure we're all together, would you be asking for more funding, is all I'm asking? Is this a result of us having to go beyond this 300,000?
If it goes to June 1st of 2020,
Yes,
yes, we'd have to come back. Would take us up to, if needed,
right.
5/31/2020.
Okay,
I think if I could,
yeah,
Councilwoman, at the time the ERP was proposed, if you remember, there was a list of proposed savings. Those were for all the current operating system, either maintenance costs, licensing costs, that were going to fall off as a result, as Dennis said, about the full implementation. So the bottom line is the longer that we go, the more that we have to incur those costs that we expected to be eliminated. So there is a cost associated with keeping the current systems running while we get the full implementation of the ERP.
and I guess when we're trying to get our arms around the cost of the ERP, whether it's operating or capital and extended time, that dollars like this, $300,000, is something that perhaps is under the radar that we don't really account for because has been extended, and these dollars directly are an impact because of it. That's what I'm just trying to ask.
And we have the same issue with like our accounting system, the current one, Famous. You know, we're going to have to continue to renew, get maintenance on those systems because the longer that they're operational,
Right.
we still need them and we're at risk for any kind of problems that we run into. So those are costs that we're going to have to continue to be liable for that we thought, I think by this time, in the original scope presentation, there was $1 million some that was supposed to fall off. So we have yet to get to that point.
I would think just so for good accounting purposes that we keep track of all the above and beyond dollars that it's costing us for different reasons, just as you said, because of the prolonged. It's not just what we're hearing from our ERP folks, but it's also impacts this too. It impacts all our departments when we go above and beyond what we thought at the end of December was going to be.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. We'll keep an accounting of this. Well, we'll keep an accounting of this, but also keep in mind, this is also for a portion where Harris Govern would also come into play too. So we may have had to keep some licenses in place because of the Harris Govern rollout as well.
Yeah.
So, but we have an accounting of what systems had to continue on and what did not.
All right, I just think at budgeting time, we need to encompass all costs, even
And-
though some of it may be approved here in Board of Control.
Right, and we did include that into our budgets that we submitted to OBM.
Okay, thank you.
The Harris project
Yes.
has similar issues that we thought, our current systems, you'll be seeing renewals coming in for, I believe, Manatron and some other things related to the MVP system, which is our current real property system. Those should have been fallen off.
Right,
So we have the same issue there as well. So we'll try and get an accounting of both to
Right.
give to the board members
right,
and to the council to give you a better perspective of where we're at.
of what it is. I appreciate it, thank you.
Mr. McAleer.
Mr. Chair, I just have a follow-up question to the Harris project. Do we have a new anticipated completion date for the Harris project?
We do not have that information. We can go back and ask the team, but we do not have that information. Sure.
Any other questions related to this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-492, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Infor Public Sector, Inc. for the purchase of 88 Enterprise Asset Management Module Enterprise Edition mobile subscription licenses, and it's for the period March 1st, 2018 through February 29th, 2024, to expand the scope of services by adding 30 licenses effective July 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $78,926.40.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Just to be clear, we're adding on 30 additional of the EAM mobility licenses for those public works folks that are out in the field to further enhance the program. We have these ending as of 2022. Just for the sake of time, we just pushed this through, and we'll come through an additional amendment for the final 2 years to have them all co-term at the same point.
Any questions, Mr. McAleer?
With the 30 additional license, why weren't the 30 included in the original plan of the 88?
I can try and answer that. We originally had anticipated a number of supervisors using them, and I think now what's happening is we're pushing them down to more and more of the foremen within the trades unit, so that we can be more, live data. They're actually really accepting it pretty well. We just didn't want to buy too many up front and not have them utilized, but it's working better than we thought.
So the current 88 are all being used?
Yeah. And these 30 are specific to the trades side of the office, because originally we wanted to see how it was going to roll out.
And to address an advanced question, when asked if this is considered an operational expense or a capital expense, it is an operational expense, so this is not affected by ERP funds.
So, just to follow up, this would have been asked, this is just an ongoing expense that would be asked from here on and probably renewed in the future.
Correct. With these licenses, the initial year was under the ERP,
Okay,
but any subsequent year is under operational expense of Public Works.
got it. Thank you.
Any other questions related to this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, item BC 2019-493, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Infor Public Sector, Inc. for information technology services and solutions for the Enterprise Resource Planning System, and it's for the period October 27th, 2016 through October 26th, 2021, to expand the scope of services to add 8 hours of retraining on the WFM clocks for ERP staff. It's effective July 1st, 2019. No additional funds required.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Just for explanation as far as what the initials are, WFM are for the workforce management clocks. Just so you know, we had some internal staff, not specifically ERP, but IT-related staff that were trained on the clocks in order to be able to provide support to the departments that are using these. Those folks that were originally trained have since transitioned out of the county. So we had to make sure that other support staff would be able to provide all of that support to the departments to make sure they were trained. So to answer advanced questions, how many staff were retrained? It was 3 staff members that were not previously trained. The cost of the training is $1,800. That was factored out of the 99 fund of the contract with Infor, which are the unallocated funds. And there wasn't a service that was identified as not being needed. So because this is something that is happening before the rollout to the departments, it is a capital expense.
Question, Mr. McElwain?
Janelle, after this 1,800, what's the balance of the 99 fund?
So I actually have it here. Thought that would be a question. So this was a question from before, and we're going to include that in our reports to you guys. With some things ahead of, with some items that haven't yet been brought forth, we have about $127,600 left in the fund.
Any other questions related to this item? Councilwoman Baker?
Thanks. So when we say this is no cost to the general fund, actually, I think as we talked about last time, we're not sure if we're going to get these 99 funds back if it's not used.
There should be, what Jack said the last meeting was that he anticipated that all of those funds would be used. So the 99 fund was baked into the cost of the contract, so it's anticipated it's going to be used. But
Okay.
according to Jack, the ERP director, he stated that he thought we used all of the funds.
Okay. So it's not that there are other services that we're not going to do anymore and we're shifting them here. It's we have another little pot of contingency money that we're drawing from.
Yes, it's an internal a contingency fund that we're trying to use for various projects that pop up within the contents of the ERP rollout.
And the $127,600 that's left, do you anticipate places for that to go? Are there some voids or some services that we don't have the funding for and you're going to draw from here and within
I don't have the particulars of that. So if there's some things that are identified, they would be brought forth to Jack and the ESC for approval or not. So I wouldn't have that information until it's decided.
Okay.
Councilman Miller?
Is this training regarding features that are already up and running on the ERP system, or is it regarding things yet to be implemented?
I believe these are features that are already in process. These are the workforce management clocks. So these are time clocks that departments will have to use in order to keep time, in order to be reported to payroll and HR and things like that. So just to make sure that the functionality is understood and how it's going to be used, so the staff can support if there's some outage that happens or something like that. Our IT staff will be able to support those departments and make sure that the clocks are up and running.
So the clock system on the ERP system is up and running or not yet?
It's not out. It's not in user ready yet.
So it sounds like it's ready to go but not been implemented.
I don't want to misstate whether it's ready to roll out or not because I don't have that information. For very specifics, I can have Jack circle back to you on when it's ready.
So when I made the first question and I asked Are we talking about systems that are up and running or systems yet to be implemented?
Well,
Should
up
your
and
answer have been yet to be implemented?
well implemented and not rolled out for everybody to use. I should say. I should clarify my statement. So things are being tested in order to be used for all the departments. Would have been a better response.
But this is a system that's not up and running yet.
That's not rolled out yet. Again, I don't know the schedule of everything and when it's going to be put out for the departments.
You seem to have more of a problem with the meaning of words than anything else.
No, I understand, but I don't want to misspeak on any rollouts or anything like that. That's not my area. I'm just presenting this to get approval. I don't know the context of what's being rolled out. That's something that Jack and that team would know. I do not know those details.
Okay.
Blair?
Janelle, what was the starting balance of the 99 funds when the contract was first approved?
The original amount was $605,000.
And then could we get a breakdown of what was used to draw down the balance of the 450,000, or the difference between the 605 and the 127?
Sure.
And does N4 have to approve the use of these funds, or does the county have the sole discretion of the 99 fund?
It is my understanding that the county has to approve whatever is being used under the 99 funds.
With the approval of N4, or can the county have sole discretion?
I don't think it's. I just want to make sure I understand the question so as to not to misspeak. Are you asking that if N4 makes a decision on if it should be applied to the 99 funds, does the county then say yay or nay to that?
It could be asked that way, or I was asking if the county wants to use the 99 funds, does N4 have to sign off on it?
Yes.
So N4 has the final say on the use of the funds.
That's a nuance to the contract that I don't know. So I'd have to go back and ask that.
Oh, could you please?
Sure.
I believe the way they handle that is it comes through on a decision document that has to be proposed and signed by Infor and the county as an acceptance that would change the original use of the funds. I believe that's how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions, comments on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
The next item is a two-part item, item BC 2019-494, Department of Human Resources. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 46085, which will result in a payment to Medical Resource Group, Inc. in the amount of $1,995 for deposition scheduling fees, impairment ratings, exam letters, file reviews, and no-show impairment rating fees for workers' compensation claims and fitness for duty, and is for the period March 7th, 2019 through May 7th, 2019, and B, recommending the award in connection with said payment.
Good morning, Pat Smock on behalf of the Department of Human Resources. As Andrea said, this is an RFP exemption and award. These are costs that are associated with independent medical exams for our workers' comp division. To address the need in the future, the department has released an RFP for these services, and so there'll be a contract forthcoming. This item allows us to pay for outstanding invoices for services that are already rendered, and we appreciate your consideration of the request.
Any questions on this item? Okay, the item has been moved and seconded. Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
The next item is a two-part item, item BC 2019-495, Fiscal Department. A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 45960, which will result in an award recommendation to Environments for Business LLC in the amount not to exceed $21,016.95 for a state contract purchase of office furniture for the Bedford Auto Title Facility located at 22121 Rockside Road, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Christina Papa, Fiscal Office, Auto Title Division. This is an RFP exemption and award for furniture for the new Bedford Auto Title location, which recently just opened today.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? I'd just like to say thank you to Christina. A lot of this work was done personally by her, a lot of it, really all of it, while I was out. So there was a lot that went into it. Thanks to the folks from Public Works today, too. So the office opens today officially, and it's a great location. I think it's going to do well because it's right by the Bedford Auto Mile, too. So thank you for
Thank you.
all the work. Any questions? I will make a motion to, oops, I'm sorry, Councilman Miller.
Is this also located like right next door to the similar state facilities?
Yes, we were co-located with the Deputy Registrar and Driver's Examination Station in Garfield, and they have now recently moved, and we are right next door to them.
Okay, fine, good.
Okay, thank you. I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-496, Office of Procurement and Diversity, submitting an amendment to a contract with Dunbar Armored, Inc. for armed guard and armored truck services for various county departments. And it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, to expand the scope of services by adding 7 pickup locations for the Fiscal Office General Services. And it's effective on July 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $13,825.
Good morning, Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. The Office of Procurement and Diversity is the lead for this contract. We manage it for the user departments that are included. We are asking today to amend the contract to add 7 pickup locations for dog tag licenses.
Any questions about this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
The item is approved.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2019-497, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services. A, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to AT&T Corporation in the amount not to exceed $178,272 for network connectivity services for the next generation vendor-hosted 911 system. And it's for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2024. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning. As Ms. Richardson said, this is an RFP exemption and a recommendation for award for network connectivity services. This is the first renewal of the circuits that deal with our data center as well as our backup data center in Columbus. I would note that 178 is over the all 5 years. It's not an annual number. Any questions?
Mr. Pelham, if you would introduce yourself for the record.
Oh, excuse me, Alex Pelham, Public Safety and Justice Services.
Any questions? Councilman Miller?
Could you explain the part about this being part of the 911 system?
Absolutely, sir. Councilman, what this is there are several different pieces. I'm going to try not to go too far into the weeds on this. The first part is the AT&T part where the call is made and it all goes to one data center and then pushes to the other service that the county provides, which is CallWorks, Motorola Emergency CallWorks. So this is the first step in that process. This pulls all the data together and pushes it out where it needs to be. This is the brains, if you will, before it hits the actual call-taking platform.
So this system is part of the emergency response system, is that correct?
Yes, sir. This is the first piece.
Okay.
Any other questions related to this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-498, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award on requisition 45315 to Edge One LLC, doing business as Edge Tech, in the amount not to exceed $486,750, and it's for the purchase of a towfish sonar system for the Ohio Region 2 Water Rescue Group.
I'll try this again. Alex Pelham, Director of Public Safety and Justice Services. This award is a grant funded fully at a 2017 UASI Urban Area Security Initiative grants. It's for a site, it's a sonar for our water rescue boats. What this does is this allows our teams, our Region 2 water teams, to be able to put together either preliminary planning scannings or could be used in a recovery or response portion.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. McAleer?
I just have a question about the backup. It says that two bids were pulled from OPD with two bids being submitted and two bids were approved. What does that mean by two bids were approved? Because it looks like we're only giving this to one vendor.
I know there were three that came in. One came in after the allotted time period. Two were approved that came in. We took the lowest of those two. Defer to Ms. Lockett.
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. I would estimate that or assume that the two bids were approved means that two were further evaluated.
Okay. Two were valid.
Accepted, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
I'm just a little curious about the equipment itself. It says that the primary goal is to rescue with necessary equipment to respond to disaster, or so for $46,000, what is it that we actually do with this equipment? I mean, what's anticipated that this would be used for? It doesn't sound like, a lot of money if you're talking about a full-scale rescue, maybe of a airplane or, mini or if a boating accident or swimmers, or what is it that this is used for?
That's a great question. So what this is a piece of it would be a piece of the response, if you will. If you think about sonar and how we're able to ping things on the bottom of the lake, or to provide for the airplane that had crashed into Lake Erie, unfortunately, this would aid and up the responders' ability to find things, as well as to prevent or to plan for events that we would have on the waterway.
So it's just one part
Yes,
of
ma'am.
a larger.
Yes, ma'am.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion for approval. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-499, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Stella Maris, Inc. for temporary housing for homeless single adult males in Cuyahoga County with substance abuse issues, and it's for the period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $265,000.
Is there anybody here from Homeless
Seems like
Services?
Shari's not here.
How would you like to handle this? Any comments, or Mr. McAleer?
Mr. Chair, this is, for me, a fairly routine contract that's come to the board quite often, and we know these services that they provide. I would be okay moving forward without a presentation from Homeless Services.
Was there, Andrea, was there any concern at the pre-meeting last week about any kind of details about this contract?
No, there wasn't.
Okay. So in light of Mr. McAleer's comments, does anybody have any reservations for moving forward? I will then make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Okay. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-500, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to an agreement with Educational Service Center of Cuyahoga County for the provision of an early childhood mental health coordinator, and it's for the period July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2019, to modify the terms effective July 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $21,418.62.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with the Office of Early Childhood and Best in Children. Again, this is a contract amendment with the Educational Service Center. This is for our Early Childhood and Mental Health Coordinator. The coordinator's primary role is to triage referrals that come into our system. Last year alone, she processed over 700 referrals. This is to extend it by 3 months because at the end of 3 months, the plan is to transition this position to a county-funded position.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on this item? Councilman Miller.
Just a question on, so it's anticipated that this will be a new hire?
Yes.
And is it, so never before have we had a coordinator in this position except for hiring out a contracted service? Is that word?
It's a contracted position right now through the ESC, so it will be new to the county.
And from the backup question, the salary for the new person coming in is about $44,500?
Correct. Which is pretty much in line with what the coordinator is making now.
Okay. That's it for right now.
Any other, Councilman Miller?
I had the same, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-501, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Seattle Jobs Initiative for implementation of a supplemental nutrition assistance and employment training program. And it's for the period August 15th, 2016 through June 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, to expand the scope of services by adding technical assistance services effective July 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $150,000.
Good morning, Paul Balance from Jobs and Family Services. We're seeking your approval to amend the contract with Seattle Jobs Initiative. Seattle Jobs Initiative has been contracted with CGFS to develop a SNAP employment training program designed to assist SNAP-eligible residents to become gainfully employed through access to supportive services, education, and training programming.
Are there any questions? Councilman Miller?
Could you explain the dates on this contract? It seemed a little bit unclear, particularly between what was in the summary and what was in the backup material. What exactly are we doing here in terms of timing?
Okay, my understanding is that we're seeking to extend the contract beginning July 1st, extending it through September 30th.
Of next year.
Of next year, correct.
So are we extending it by a year and a quarter?
To my knowledge, that if these dates are correct, then yes, that's the answer.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Is there a reason why in the backup under Amendment 2, there is nothing for 7/118 to 6/30/19?
Yes, that question was posed earlier, and to my understanding, there was a previous, obviously, as you guys have known, there was a previous amendments to this contract, and for that particular term, the dollars which were allocated were not spent down, which is why there was not a dollar amount in that line item. Hopefully that answers your question.
I mean, I have a question along the same lines. That Amendment 1 ran out 6/30/17? Should that say 6/30/18?
I'm reading 6/30/18, correct?
Because otherwise you got a year gap there, it looks like. So that should be 6/30/18.
That's what I have, yes.
Okay. Councilwoman Miller?
Looks like the extension is for exactly 1 year, not more than that. Is that correct?
Sir, my understanding is, as I read the contract, it's 7/1, I'm looking at the proposed amendment, 7/1/2019 to 6/30/2020.
Okay, so 1 year. Okay.
You know, if you could, it just says you're expanding both the date and the amount's 150,000, says you expand the scope of services. Could you go into a little bit about
Sure,
what you're
not a
expanding?
problem. Currently, the program model, which CGI has assisted with, has allowed for 6 program providers to provide assistance to SNAP recipients. We're extending the number of providers from 6 to 9. Additionally, we're also looking at providers which provide education-based services, primarily Tri-C, to expand that ability to really coordinate those education non-credit programming that customers who have not accessed those in the past and previous models will now have access to. So there's the piece of technical assistance and support and on-site training and assistance for the new program program providers. And there's the piece of expanding the education relationship that we have with our current provider, Tri-C.
Thank you. Any other, Councilwoman Baker?
So we are in this contract on our third amendment.
Correct.
If I read the backup correctly, is this the last amendment you anticipate without going back out?
All right, well, there are 2 ways I can answer this question. Obviously, I don't have the authority to say yes or no that would not happen. It is my expectation. I do anticipate that to happen. But again, of course, it's not within my realm to say yes or no with that regard. The hope is that SJI, under this current agreement, will be able to provide enough technical assistance to the current providers as well as CJFS staff to be able to carry that model forward.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Next item, BC 2019-502, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Children and Family Services, submitting an amendment to an agreement with University of Maryland, Baltimore on behalf of the School of Social Work Institute for Innovation and Implementation to develop, integrate, and sustain best practices and programs to improve the well-being, stability, and permanency of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, questioning, and two-spirit children and youth in foster care. And it's for the period September 30th, 2017 through September 29th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $240,000.
Jennifer Crossman representing DCFS. This is a carryover amount. It's a subaward from the University of Maryland for the $240,000. We were just waiting for the subaward, which arrived late, so that we can spend the amount on services to deliver to youth. So it will be for the actual service delivery for the clinicians that are delivering the services, and also some marketing funds to recruit foster parents for the training portion of the grant.
Questions? Councilman Miller?
Is the existing contract supposed to end on 9/29/2019 as stated in the agenda, or is it supposed to end on 9/29/2018 as stated in the backup?
It's the 2019
So,
date, yes.
so it's only being extended for 1 day?
No, I'm sorry. It's from 2018 to 2019.
So it's the current contract ended 2/29/2018,
Yes,
and it's being extended for a year and a day to 6/30/2019.
correct.
Okay. And only other comment is reflecting on the 50th anniversary of Stonewall, that we have come a long way in bringing forward this kind of programming. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Are there any, Mr. McElnair?
Sure, can I just ask for clarification on the contract dates? The way I was reading this, I thought the current contract went through September 29th of this year. And it looks like we're only extending this for one day. But I guess I would ask for some clarification.
I'm sorry. I would like to clarify that when we were in executive review, we had that same question. And the prior contract amendment, this is a revenue generating grant. So each year when funds become available, what they do is they award additional funding. Last year's funding was to extend the time period to September 29th, 2019. So it was originally last year, the second amendment from 9/30/2017 through 9/29/2018 to extend the time period to 9/29/2019. That was last year's amendment number 2. So with the additional funding for this time period, all we're doing, because the actual grantee made a mistake on the extension of the date by one day, we're really just extending it to one additional day. But the money just came forward late. And that's how it's represented in the grant agreement. And it was also confirmed at the review meeting, one day.
So it's basically a technicality because of the timing of the receipt of funds.
Correct.
And because of an error on the part of the grantor up front, is that?
Yes, we have received these funds late last year and this year. And so we've just been waiting for this sub-award for the carryover amount to come through. But yes, that was their error.
So is this essentially a situation where we're adding money but not adding time? Because we're only adding one day. Yeah.
We're not adding any money. We're just, this is just a carryover amount that we didn't spend last year.
Well, the summary says that there's additional funds in the amount of $240,000. That's what the agenda says. So is that not correct?
It is. It's very confusing to me too, and I'm not usually the person who represents DCFS on this grant. My understanding is that we've had carryover funds both in 2018 and in 2019, and those are determined by the University of Maryland, the amounts for those funds. But yes, this is just the carryover. It's additional funds in terms of they've determined what the carryover amount will be for each of the 4 sites for this grant, but it's the time is just the one day so that we can receive the funds, get them approved, and be able to serve the young people with those funds. If that makes.
Let me try this again.
Okay.
In the form of a yes or no question.
Okay.
Are we receiving additional money for this program in the amount of $240,000 through this item that's on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay.
So the total amount, given the approval of these funds, would be the $978,052?
Right.
In its entirety for the whole,
For the
original
whole
contract
period, exactly.
Mr. McAleer.
Jennifer, do you know how many youth are being served then with the total grant money? How many individuals have been served?
So far, we have safely identified 10% of our kids ages 12 to 21 have been identified as LGBTQ. And that's significant because we did a desk review back in 2016. And we were only able to identify 2% of the youth involved with children's services to be LGBTQ. There are over 80 kids that we've identified. And of those, we've served about 25 with the services that our partner Connect is providing, but we've also served 45 caregivers with the intervention that is the training specialized for foster parents and kinship parents to care for LGBTQ kids. These funds will allow us to actually have an additional clinician because we do have 16 kids right now on a waiting list for services.
Will those 16 kids on the waiting list or families on the waiting list, will they be cleared up with the additional staff, or will there still be a waiting list after that?
No, I believe they'll be cleared up with the additional staff.
Okay, any other questions? Councilman Miller? Moved to approve. I will second that. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-503, Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Senior and Adult Services, submitting an amendment to an agreement with the City of Euclid for development and implementation of Senior Center Innovation Programming in connection with the Senior Center Innovation Grant Program. And it's for the period August 1st, 2018 through July 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $5,000.
Good morning. Paul Porter, Health and Human Services, on behalf of the Division of Senior and Adult Services. This is a program that came out of our Senior Innovation Grant Project. The City of Euclid implemented a program whereby they would do home-delivered meals or boxed lunches that seniors attending the senior center could take home or have delivered the day before a holiday closure. This program helped fund a cooler to keep the refrigerated lunches and then insulated delivery bags for the ones that were delivered to clients' homes. The city anticipated doing approximately 135 meals per holiday, but it's been very successful, and the average number of meals per holiday has actually been about 167. So they exhausted their funding for meals prior to the end of the current contract term, which is 7/31. We're adding additional funding just for more meals for the remainder of this year because the equipment is all fine. And the equipment is able to handle that higher volume of meals. So the $5,000 is for additional meals for the remaining holidays throughout 2019, starting with the 4th of July this week.
Any questions? Councilwoman Baker?
The reason why we're only talking about the City of Euclid, I mean, other cities have, I'm sure, programs similar to this. Is this just an award because of their entry into this challenge?
Absolutely. This contract was a result of a proposal that the City of Euclid submitted for the latest round of senior innovation programming, and that was done last spring. So the current contract started last August. So this is an amendment to extend that contract agreement that came out of the RFP from last spring.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McLeod?
Paul's follow-up to Councilman Baker's question. Is this something that you see could be a countywide program with all the senior citizen offices throughout the county?
So I can't speak on behalf of Tracy Mason, the Director of Senior and Adult Services, but what I can say is the goal of the Senior Center Innovation Program, one component of that has been implementing a project that can be replicable on a scale throughout the county. So I think, that would be a laudable goal as long as the funding was available to support it. Right now, the Community Social Services Program primarily funds congregate meals that get senior citizens out of their homes and attending programming at the center to not only receive the nutrition, but also the opportunity to socialize. The City of Euclid is one of those sites that serves as a congregate meal setting. This was kind of a pilot expansion of that they submitted as part of the proposal in response to that RFP. Again, it would be nice to be able to offer it countywide. We would have to look at funding for a project like that.
What would be what's a prohibitive factor to just using more money from the levy funds to make it a bigger program?
The only prohibitive factor would be the size of senior and adult services budget. I mean, we could look at, this program's been successful for the city of Euclid. There haven't really been a lot of hiccups with implementing it. As I mentioned, there was a component for purchasing the equipment to be able to store the lunches. And then it's simply, ordering more lunches from their food vendor. And I think they pay $3.71 a meal, which isn't necessarily higher than what our vendors are paying for the congregate meals that they serve. So there wouldn't be a prohibition outside of budgetary factors and a provider's ability to implement a program like this.
Mr. Michael?
Paul, would it be possible if you could get council some estimated numbers on what it would be potentially countywide or even by senior center throughout the county?
Certainly. We would probably have the best ability to provide that data on centers that are currently congregate meal sites, because we could base kind of an estimate on the number of seniors that would need a service like this on their average daily attendance for congregate meals. Would something like that work?
Yes, please.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you. Councilman Miller had this second, the second.
Next item is a two-part item. Item number BC 2019-504, Department of Sustainability. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 45381, which will result in an award recommendation to Cleveland State University in the amount not to exceed $80,000 for microgrid and clean energy development support services, and is for the period July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Hi, I'm Monica Bosom, the new Sustainability Coordinator, Department of Sustainability. So we're requesting an RFP exemption to contract Cleveland State University's Energy Policy Center for this next stage of the microgrid project. So we really need two contracts to accomplish this stage. The first is with Middow, who is Cleveland Public Power's engineering company, and the second is with Cleveland State University's Energy Policy Center. So we need the contracts to help create the RFP for the developer and help with the potential microgrid customer development. During the first stage, Cleveland State University completed a feasibility and financial study for us, so they are already very familiar with the project. The contract for CSU is $80,000. Middow is $235,000 for a total of $315,000. However, the Cleveland Foundation already approved $200,000 toward the project, so Cuyahoga County's total is $115,000. However, we are likely to get this back because in the RFP, we're going to have written that the developer reimburse the upfront costs.
Okay, there should be two contracts separate?
No, there's another contract that's with County Council, which she was referring to.
Okay, so the other one is on a separate path?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to. Okay, are there any questions? Councilwoman Baker.
Okay, so in the Sustainability Committee, this was pretty extensively given as an overview of what the microgrid is, and it was anticipated that the total cost, even though on the council agenda to be approved on July 23rd for the third reading, but the total cost was $115,000, which is what you just said. But if we approve the $80,000 here today and $200,000 has already been paid from the other vendor, then it only leaves us with about $35,000 for council really to deliberate of whether or not they understand this enough for the third reading in July. So it seems like we're perhaps approving the majority of what's needed before it gets to third reading for council approval. Is there any reason why we need to vote on this today? And that perhaps we can wait until we see what, I mean, council's going to say, well, if you approved in Board of Control 80, then what is, so we're only talking about 35,000 that we haven't yet approved by the time it gets to the third reading on July 23rd. Just seems like we're kind of pushing ahead without perhaps giving the rest of the council members a chance to understand all about the microgrid in moving forward. Is there an urgency to having this today?
I don't think there's an urgency, no.
Any other thoughts, or?
Mr. Chair, that we told Mike Foley that this might be a possibility that we would request this get held until council votes on the other contract that's in front of council. I think he was okay with it, I think is probably the way to put it. I mean, he understood the reason why it might be requested at today's meeting.
Is it, I mean, I don't want to speak on behalf of Mr. Foley, so do you have any thoughts on that? Is it, would you have any objection from the department standpoint to holding till next Monday?
I don't think there would be an objection to that.
If I may, we would just need, I don't know when this July 23rd, that's a Tuesday, so
Okay.
whenever we approve that, if we do, I mean, that's the question, then it would come back to Board of Control for the balance of the 80,000.
After that action is taken. that
Right,
day.
because then you've got all council members chiming in, understanding it, and we're then just supporting that vote. We're kind of preempting the vote. That's my concern.
Okay. So does anybody have any reservations about holding this item officially? I will make a motion to hold the item.
The item is held, yes.
Do I have a second?
I have a second.
Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of holding this item indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We will see you soon, I believe.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we're moving on to the consent agenda items. Item numbers BC 2019-505 through 508.
Everybody will take a few moments to review those one additional time. I think there's a couple of travel items, some payment items, and other business.
And also, I would like to take this time to make a correction to one of the items. This is the third item down from on the first page for the Carr Brothers Ready Mix Concrete for various road and bridge projects. The correct number for the requisition should reflect CT 19-46155. It currently reflects CT 19-2019.
Okay, if everybody has had a few moments to review again the items on the consent agenda, are there any questions of anybody? Comments? Seeing none, I will offer a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Any other business?
Yes, we have one mission critical item, and that is from the Department of Children and Family Services, recommending an award on requisition 46077 to Ann Grady Services in the amount not to exceed $24,999.99 for emergency placement services for the period March 19, 2019 through December 31st, 2019. And the funding source being utilized is Health and Human Services levy 70% and Title 4E 30%.
Good afternoon. We're seeking approval, Christine Alexander, Health and Human Services. On behalf of the Department of Children and Family Services, we are seeking approval to add Ann Grady Services to our current master contract for out-of-home care. We have a 5-year-old child who has been placed there on March 19th. This child has suffered stroke and brain injury and is in need of medical services. The child was previously placed in Kentucky with an adoptive home. The family was no longer able to meet his needs. The child was then placed at University Hospital until we were able to find a facility that could meet his medical needs. That's about it. Any
First, I believe I'll have to make a motion to add this to the agenda, so I'll make that motion. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of adding this item to today's agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any questions about this item? Councilman Miller?
Since this child is only 5 years old, how likely is it that we're going to have to provide services for this child all the way to age 18?
That is a likelihood. Again, the child is coming from an adoptive home, so, and it was formerly placed in a foster home, second placement, so, we're hoping that one of those options moving forward. This child may remain in the system permanently.
But hopefully not institutionalized permanently.
No.
Hopefully, okay.
Councilwoman Baker?
Just curious, the backup reads that this child suffered from a stroke and brain injury due to lack of oxygen. Was that at birth, or was that something that happened between birth and 5 years old?
I don't know if it was at birth. It was a very young age. The child was originally taken into custody in 2013, and the child is 5 now, so my sense is that those injuries occurred very early on. Also a victim of shaken baby syndrome, which might point to at infancy, the injuries occurred.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thanks.
Mr. McAleer?
I might have missed this, but did you say you were going to add this vendor to the master service?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the mission critical item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you. Welcome to. It's Bob Mass' replacement. Is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
So seeing no other business, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Happy holiday to everybody, too. Yeah.